Welcome, everyone. My name is Steve Stein. I'm the founder of BetterListen.com and Wisdom Feed, but for this occasion, I'm the host of the StreetSmart Wisdom Podcast, and thrilled to have our guest today, Bob Roth. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. Bob is one of the most experienced and sought-after meditation teachers in America over the past 40 years. Bob has taught transcendental meditation to many thousands of people and authored an authoritative book on the subject. Bob currently serves as the executive director of the David Lynch Foundation, a charity that has brought meditation to over 500,000 inner city youth and in underserved schools in 35 countries. He also directs the Center for Leadership Performance, host of Sirius radio show Success Without Stress, and I could go on for a while.
Yeah, don't.
But that's the gist of it. So welcome, Bob. Great to have you here.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me, Steve. And you are the embodiment of street smart wisdom.
Well, so the goal of what I do is trying to take ancient ideas down to street level, make it kind of practical for people that aren't in the ashram, that aren't at Omega or Esalen. It's for those people too, but I have like friends back in Brooklyn where I grew up, and that's like the smell test. Will they, roll their eyes and like, oh, come on. And that's what I love about, the few times I've worked with Bob. It's like, it's science-based, it's poetic, it's inspired, but it's also practical. So I have a couple of topics we can kind of jump into, but Bob, what do you have to say to start us off a little bit?
No, I've always enjoyed our conversations, and I think we're on the same wavelength there. I don't think meditation, I think there's been an unfortunate thing where people have too often have an affectation around topics of meditation or consciousness. And I think that's unfortunate because it makes it elitist, it makes it separate. Oh, he or she's up there and I'm not. And I'm all in favor of the democratization of meditation, the democratization of all these topics, because it's as down to earth as life itself. So happy to be here.
Great. So a theme every time we kind of talk, it has to do with sports, seems to come up.
Yeah.
So, so that's, I think, where the practical aspects of meditations or being in the flow. And so you have the Center for Leadership Performance. I know you've worked with performers and athletes. And is there any theme or science or both that helps you get in the flow or in the zone, or for mundane people in their workplace or in their day,
Well, this term, the flow or zone, again, it can sound a little esoteric. It's just the normal, natural functioning of a healthy nervous system. And what gets in the way of a healthy nervous system all too often is stress. Just the buildup of stress of just living life in 2023. And, it's not like we can just shrug it off. Oh, stress, no big deal. Science is telling us more and more the absolutely devastating impact of stress on the way our brain functions, our cardiovascular system functions, our respiratory system functions, digestive system functions. And we have to do something about it. Just like if it's really hot and sweaty, you have to take a shower. You have to get it off. You have to make a step. It just doesn't disappear on its own. Well, stress, internal stress, doesn't disappear on its own. We have to take, as if a shower, the mind that has to deal with that in a very specific way. And there's a lot of wackadoodle stuff out there in the name of meditation. And there's some good stuff. And we have to have, discrimination. We have to be able to find the good stuff and get rid of and not follow the bad stuff, because the good stuff is very powerful, very down to earth, and can make us healthy and can put us in the so-called zone. And the zone just means feeling like I'm not struggling in my life, feeling like I'm not burdened down by just living. Yeah, life is intense, but we can also lighten the load by sleeping better at night, by getting rid of the stress during the day. It can transform life. Meditation, properly understood and practiced, can transform life.
Yeah, I love the way you the first few words you said. It's just like the simple process of slowing down. I don't think you use those words. It's just a simple, natural process. And if you don't take a moment to kind of disengage from the insanity of the world, you know, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. A whole day goes by, So I remember
and we work at when we're young, we think, oh, I want to have a family, or I want to have children, or I want to have this job, I want to do this job. And then we get the family, we have the children, we have the job, and we're so tired. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know this. We're so tired, we're burned out. We like to appreciate what we have, but I'm not saying all the time, too often, we don't appreciate what we have. And that's sad, because life just gobbles us up. So again, we already understand the importance of eating healthy. We already understand the importance of getting a good night's sleep. We understand the importance of exercise. It doesn't have to be, we're Olympic training, but just going for walks or doing something. And now we're understanding the importance of doing something from the neck up. Everything else is from the neck down, from the neck up. So TM, or transcendental meditation, is an excellent, proven by science to be an excellent tool for the neck up, to help, because we know that mind and body are one. And when we settle the mind, we settle the body.
And you talked about appreciating life. And I think, the naysayers back in Brooklyn, and in general, I mean, this was always fringe stuff for many years. And now I think the fact that it's science-based, science-backed is huge. And
we're working with the New York Police Department. We're working with the.
What are you doing with the police department?
We're teaching them to meditate. We're teaching cops to meditate. We're teaching firefighters to meditate. We're teaching veterans to meditate. We're teaching active duty military, Navy SEALs to meditate. We can't just sort of throw it off. Oh, meditation, it sounds just wackadoodle. Of course, it may sound wackadoodle, but it's not. And we have to get rid of the vocabulary, the word, oh, meditation. And you can ask your doctor about it. The doctor is probably going to probably meditates herself or himself or prescribe it. And when we scratch the surface of the word, we see something really important and practical. And to say appreciate life, it's not, it means you come home from work, you're tired, you got 3 kids that are screaming or something like that. Are you going to scream with them because you're wiped out? Or are you going to be able to be a good mother or father?
But I think that's something that you said about doctors. The point I was going to make is there's research backing up gratitude now. If you take a few minutes in the morning, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for, thank God of the good things. But I think the fact that there's science-based evidence of so many different things that help lower stress, I think it gives MDs and doctors ammunition to talk about it.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, it was fringy, and then no one, everyone wanted to, not be weird and fringy. But now when you see elite athletes meditate, and I know my kids, my boys are basketball players. So, we've done some work with George Mumford, who was like Phil Jackson's secret weapon with some of those Bulls team. And my boys got to meet him once at a Knicks game. It was amazing.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, he taught Michael Jackson and Kobe, how to meditate. And when those kind of people are doing it, it takes it from the fringe to like, wow, this is important stuff.
And, you talk about research. So there's now 400 scientific studies on the effects of TM, transcendental meditation, on reducing stress, anxiety, depression, burnout, improving resilience, clarity of thinking, sleeping better at night. And again, when we're working now with insurance companies, with Medicare, with private insurers, and I think within 2-3 years, you're going to be able to go to a doctor, and you say you or someone in your family is anxious. So their doctor will write a prescription for Lexapro and write a prescription for TM, and both will be covered by your insurance company, because it does something that pills aren't doing, which is to actually reduce the stress that's at the basis of feeling anxious, basis of feeling depressed. So you can take a pill that masks.
It's a holistic
anxiety.
approach.
Yeah, it's a holistic and it's a foundational approach. So it's a new world. It's a new world. And when we work with cops, all over the country, or veterans, they think, well, I'm okay with this, but I'm sure my buddy will think it's crazy back in Brooklyn. Turns out the buddy back in Brooklyn's been meditating for 2 years, didn't want to tell anybody anything, but they've been doing it. So it's a new time. It's a new time.
Absolutely. And so I read a little bit about your Center for Leadership Performance. What is that?
It's bringing the meditation to institutions. It's called enterprise. So it's bringing it to whole companies. In New York City, for example, we're teaching TM to doctors and nurses in 50 hospitals. So they're learning to do it. We're offering it in businesses. We're offering it on military bases. We're offering it in schools, particularly to school teachers. But just going back to hospitals, there's some sort of startling numbers. The profession, maybe you have some people on this podcast are in the healthcare profession, but 100,000 medical doctors will quit the practice this year, and 40,000 doctors are in a position to replace them. Now, you do that for a couple of years, we don't have a healthcare system. And why are they leaving? Overwhelmingly, it's because of stress. I mean, imagine you're in a hospital 8-10 hours a day, go into this room, person, this problem, next room, that problem, that next problem. And there's no let up, there's no break. Then you go back the next day, and then you go back the next day, and you go back the next day. We all have stressful jobs, but that one, to me, maybe a soldier or a cop on the beat is more stressful, but it grows on you, and they just think, I want something else. Whatever the reason, it's very treacherous grounds for our healthcare system. So they're looking at TM as a way to give the doctors and nurses a way to reduce the stress and thereby reduce anxiety, depression, burnout, etc.
Interesting. So I'm curious, what are some of the common feedback you get from a cop or someone in the military who meditates for the first time and it helps them?
I can't believe how easy this is. Across the board, that's what they all say. I can't believe how easy. I thought this was going to be weird, or I thought this was going to be, and easy, not because it's simplistic, but because it's natural. There are some meditations that are very difficult to do. There's a lot of philosophy associated with them. You have to try and clear your mind of thoughts, stop the monkey mind. It would be like the analogy of a cross-section of an ocean. We have choppy waves, sometimes tsunami-esque waves on the surface. And so the idea is, okay, if you want to have a calm ocean, what disrupts a calm ocean? Waves. So stop the waves, and you'll have a calm ocean. Well, good. Try and stop the waves. It's like, that's not happening. Whereas with TM, we understand that there's a vertical dimension to the mind. And just like an ocean has choppy waves on the surface, but has some calm at its depth, the mind has we have we got a lot going on in our minds, a lot of pressures, a lot of demands, a lot of challenges, very real things. To try and stop those thoughts would be impossible and frankly unnatural. So what transcendental meditation does through the use of a mantra is it gives you access to a field deep within where the mind is already quiet. That's the key thing. You're not trying to artificially create calm on the surface of the ocean. You're accessing a calmer level of the ocean. You're not trying to artificially create calm on the surface of the mind. You're accessing calm at the deeper levels of the mind. And I say to people, deeper levels of the mind, they say, what are you talking about? And I said, you have a good intuition. Somebody says to you, here's a job opportunity or here's an investment opportunity and here's 3 reasons why you should do it. And then it makes good sense, but then you go home and you think about it quietly, Steve, and then all of a sudden you go, I don't think so. And someone says, why? And you say, it doesn't feel right, right? You've had that? Doesn't feel right. That's a quieter level of your mind. Now, deeper than that, we hypothesize deeper, even deeper than that. Naturally, there's a level where the mind is already settled and calm. And in transcendental meditation, we access that. And when we access that in 20 minutes, effortlessly, your body, according to research at Harvard, gets a state of rest deeper than the deepest part of deep sleep in 20 minutes, proven, published in Science magazine. And then you've heard of cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. If you get a good night's sleep, cortisol levels drop 10%. In 20 minutes of TM, cortisol levels drop 40%. That's huge. That's unheard of.
Yeah, cortisol's the thing, and I remember I not too long ago, I moved from the city to the suburbs. And I remember trying to find parking in the city. And I was like, my neck is tight. And it's like, but it was the cortisol levels.
Yeah, cortisol.
Right. And now, I remember at one point we were living in Brooklyn and it was only one Whole Foods in Union Square. And I would schlep because I wanted good food for my family that was growing up. And I used to take 2 bags on the subway to a car, and it was, and then I moved to the suburbs, and that's 4 minutes away.
Yeah.
It's always parking, so it's real. And I think what happens is it builds up unconsciously, and then it shows up as a disease, or it shows up as barking against your loved one, or things like that.
Well, it's tied now to dementia. The thing is high blood pressure doesn't appear out of the blue at the age of 50 or 55. This research says it starts when we're in our 20s and 30s. Dementia, Alzheimer's, doesn't just start at 65. It's starting when we're not getting enough sleep in our 30s. It's starting when we're, have high cortisol levels and we think we're dealing it with by 3rd glass of wine or 3rd, can of beer. We're not. We're not. And so this is what, and again, taking a pill does mask the symptoms, but it doesn't address the cause of it, which is that tension. And so in transcendental meditation, you get to the root cause by giving the body a state of rest deeper than sleep. We're hardwired for it. I think that, and then I'll stop talking, but we're hardwired for it. We have it. We've just lost access to it.
Right. And it's always there, or you could tap
always
into
there.
it. And that gap, I think, all different kinds of, meditation techniques and wellness, I think it's tied into being present enough to have a little gap before you react. And I'm not saying I'm great at it, but I'm better than I was, like I can catch myself, because if that cortisol reacts, you're kind of dead in the water.
They call it, the psychologists talk about having a window of tolerance. I love this term, window of tolerance. So it's like you draw 2 parallel lines, horizontal parallel lines. Maybe they're 2 inches apart, one on top of the other. And if you have a narrow window of tolerance, maybe it's just an inch, life comes at you like waves, wave functions within that window of tolerance. And if the normal stuff of life comes at you larger than that window of tolerance, you know, the way, then we're constantly getting our buttons pushed. We're constantly overreacting to this and that. And then our partner says, honey, can you not, you know, react so much? But we have a narrow window of tolerance. Life doesn't come at us in a way that we can handle it. So we expand that window of tolerance. And now life, the same stuff happens. The same stuff happens, but we're not reacting and overreacting. And you know the difference if you get a good night's sleep? Well, first of all, we know the difference if we hadn't slept well for a few nights. We have a narrow window of tolerance. If we've slept well for a few days, been on a vacation, then we have an expanded window of tolerance. So TM just expands the window of tolerance.
If you were a superhero, you know, just going back to like, how'd you get here today in your life? If you were a superhero, what would be your origin story? Was there some catalyst that got you on this path?
Well, I grew up in the 60s. I was born in, you know, I grew up in the 60s, and I went to university at the University of California at Berkeley in 1968. So right there, yeah. And the thing is I was not a druggy person. I was not a revolutionary. I had worked for Bobby Kennedy Sr. for his running for president, and I wanted to change the world. And so I was a little fish out of water at Berkeley at that time because there weren't many people, just normal people like me. But the stress levels were so high. The origin story is stress levels were so high at that time with riots in the streets and, you know, demands of college, I had to work, be in school. And I think the origin story there was I wanted to survive. And I was drowning, as kids are today, as we all are today. But kids, you know, first year away at school, year away at school in 1968 at Berkeley was like on massive steroids. And you have a survival instinct. And I did not know what to do. And I had a friend, one of the few normal friends at Berkeley. His name was Peter Stevens, who was a down-to-earth guy, liked him a lot, big heart, worked hard. And he was doing something called transcendental meditation. And it was not a word in my vocabulary. And when he told me what it was, I said, I don't believe in that kind of stuff. I'm a skeptical person by nature. I said, I don't believe in that stuff. And he said, well, he had a pen, and he held a pen up in his hand, and he dropped the pen, and he said, you don't have to believe in gravity for the pen to fall. And you don't have to believe in meditation for the meditation to work. And I said to myself, I'm going to give this a try. TM is taught in personal instruction. It's not taught out of a book. You have a certified teacher. It's the real deal. It's not just some quick fix thing. You have a real deal. So I said, okay, I'll learn this. And if I don't like it, I'll leave the room after five seconds. And it was profoundly relaxing from the first meditation. And I was a sort of a stressed out, know-it-all 18-year-old, skeptical. And it was so relaxing. And I remember afterwards having a thought, because at that point I wanted to write educational curriculum to help school kids, you know, in East Oakland, so it was tougher neighborhoods, navigate their life. So I wanted to give school kids tools. So I remember having the thought, Steve, after I learned to meditate, maybe TM is a tool I'm going to help those kids with. And that was June 28th, 1969. And now I run a foundation that's actually brought the meditation to 1 million school kids for free, and veterans, and police and firefighters, and school teachers, and women survivors of domestic violence, and regular folk. So my origin story is not wanting to drown in the stress of the time.
So if you haven't, who knows, if your friend didn't say, check this out.
Who knows? Who knows? You never know, the twists and turns.
and just in this point in my life, my younger son, he's 18 and he's starting college in a few weeks. So so
Wow, empty nest syndrome.
What's that?
Empty nest syndrome.
Yes, I'm going to need some TM to get through that for
Yeah.
sure. But but we do some practice. We've been walking a lot, my wife and I.
Great.
It's been great.
I bet you're a really great dad, Steve.
Thank you. I try. And so how can people find you? I think we'll finish up this segment and then we can go into the meditation that we're going to do for the challenge.
Okay.
That sound good?
Yeah.
So how do people find you? We'll find out more about your work.
So they can go to for TM itself and all about it and where the TM teacher is in your area. You just go to tm.org, tm.org. To find out about the work of the foundation, David Lynch Foundation, they go to davidlynchfoundation.org, LYNCH foundation.org. And that'll tell you more of the work that we're doing. And on that David Lynch Foundation website, on that homepage, you'll see a link to an 18-minute video that I made that gives a good introduction to what TM is about. You can't learn it from a video, but you can sure find out enough to see if you want to learn it.
Excellent. So let's finish up this segment. And Bob, thanks so much for coming and sharing your wisdom. And this is brought to you by Wisdom Feed, is our new kind of platform, a wellness platform, as I said, taking ancient ideas down to street level. And we're building a membership and kind of a place for consciousness and community. And we're really excited that to host a StreetSmart Wisdom podcast episode with Bob. Thanks so much, Bob. That was great.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. I always enjoy our conversation.